Going on, Flames Nation? We are back. We are one step closer to football season, an opportunity to enjoy our Liberty Flames. And there's no one I would rather chat about this upcoming season, about what's going on at camp, about all the things that are going on behind the scenes, than the man that knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes way before we do, and a lot smarter than all of us, too. He's a man that is all things to see about, all things Liberty. John Manson. John, how we living this Wednesday night?
We're doing good. Richie, how are you? Got the Olympics on tonight?
Not too much. I've been running around. Honestly, I'm in the middle of dinner. We got a little BLT. I have a
Okay.
nice cherry limeade from Walmart before anyone accuses me of drinking on camera again. But no, it's impossible to try to watch the Olympics at night. I feel like with social media and everything and group texts, it's impossible. Like after it happens, I'm not going to tune in at 8 o'clock. I know that kid just won the 1500. I don't need to
Yeah.
watch it again.
Yeah, it's difficult to watch this year for me as far as timing goes, the time zone difference. I mean, you're working during the day, and then, like you said, by the time you try to cut it on at night, you already know what happened. I have checked in a few at night. It's just kind of fun to do, but weekends we try to get it. But no, I'm excited about the season. You know, obviously the team's got about a week of camp under their belts. They had a day off today on Wednesday and get back at it on Thursday. So have some more media access coming up. Looking forward to that. Been pumping out some content, but
Oh yeah.
it's about time for us to Richie, you and I, to get dialed in on this podcast, get all the kinks worked out, and get ready to go every week, starting here in a few weeks. I mean, we got just over 3 weeks until the season
Yeah.
starts.
It's crazy to think. And before we jump into this, John, two things that have nothing to do with Flames football. First thing, Elon Musk, what are we doing here? We can't stream this on Twitter unless we get the blue check mark. Sounds like we got to get the blue check mark.
Sounds like we got to get the blue
Yeah.
check mark. I literally found that out 30 seconds before we
Yeah.
went live. So our numbers are a little bit lower tonight live than normal, but hey, that's fine. Hopefully someone will find the link. And if you're on Twitter or Facebook watching, copy the link over onto Twitter, share it. We'll retweet it. Maybe during our ad breaks, we'll do the same thing. But yeah, so apparently we got to go premium on Twitter to go live now. So I guess Elon, you got us. We're gonna have to pony up now, I guess.
It is what it is. And if anyone wants to be the sponsor of that, to sponsor the blue check mark, we will happily take any and all sponsorships. But
before you move on, while we're talking about that, make sure those of you probably watching already live are already subscribed to our YouTube channel. But make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. We're approaching 1,000. We hope to get to 1,000 during football season. I'm live streaming all the press conferences for head coach Jamie Chadwell, as well as other sports as the year goes on YouTube. So make sure you're there. And that's where you'll get our first notifications that we're live. But obviously our podcast, we'll try to get the Twitter piece fixed, at least on the podcast nights once we get going every week. But make sure you're subscribed to us and share it with your friends.
You better we figure it out now than like August 20, whatever it is. We would do like the first kickoff show. But all that's all fine and good. But John, can we talk about the polo that you're wearing for a moment? For those listening later on, John is wearing a beautiful ice white, a sea of red polo. Tell us a little about that, John, while I take a bite of my BLT.
And it is Nike as well. But for those of you that follow us closely, you know the Sea of Red store has launched, asorstore.com. So be sure to check that out. And that's where I got this shirt from, and a few others, and I know several others that have ordered from there as well too. So be sure to check it out. We got a lot of gear out there. It's good material. It's, like I said, it's a Nike polo. I'll be wearing this throughout the season. Impress box near you. Definitely at Williams Stadium and Liberty Arena as well too. So, but lots of gear. There's Liberty gear. There's Sea of Red gear, Flames Rising gear. There's a Liberty alum that owns his own print shop, and he's helping us run this and do this operation. And I've ordered, I think I've placed 2 separate orders, and their communication has been wonderful. I mean, you get, multiple emails throughout the process, the shipping process and things, and it's very quick turnaround. I think, I've gotten everything within a 4 to 5 business day turnaround from the day I've ordered it until it's shown up in my mailbox. So great turnaround, great quality. I think you'll have great customer service, and lots of stuff out there. There's Liberty official gear. Like I said, a Sea Red gear, Flames Rising gear.
Stuff for every sport too, not just
every sport. We got football, basketball, men's and women's basketball, cross country, track and field, swimming, diving, golf. The list goes on and on. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we got shirts for everybody, and some unique stuff, and some good looking stuff. We even got a Richie Long Shots t-shirt out there. I don't know if anybody's bought one yet. Haven't gotten my report, but go out there and be the first to buy that shirt.
Yeah.
So.
I get no money from it. It all goes to Sea of Red. It goes to the athletes, and that's at the end of the day. That's what.
And a portion of the proceeds, a good chunk of the proceeds, goes to the Flames Rising Collective. So that's the whole purpose behind it. That's the reason why the Liberty alum who owns the shop, I met him at the Fiesta Bowl, and we've been working on this since then. So he's been out to Lynchburg to chat with me about it. And obviously lots of phone calls and emails and texts and all that stuff. He's a great guy to work with. Big fan of the Flames, big fan of a Sea of Red, big fan of Flames Rising, and as we all are as well too. So it's a match made in heaven, and everything's been going well. But make sure you support us, support Liberty, and also support Flames Rising. You also support Liberty when you're doing that too, because we have to pay royalties to use our logo, so they get a small cut of that as well too. So you support everybody. You buy from the Sea Red store, you support a Sea Red, you support Liberty Flames, you support Flames Rising, and you get to look nice in the meantime.
And to me, last part I mentioned, I know people don't want to hear us just sell t-shirts. We're going to talk about camp. We're going to talk about schedules. Don't you worry. And if you do have any questions, anything like that, throw it in the chat. We're definitely playing fast and loose tonight. So anything we want to chat about, any questions you have, throw it in there. But if I saw someone in a Sea of Red polo at a football game, we're like, that guy knows what they're talking about. That girl knows what they're talking about. Like, they get it. They know what's going on. They're a fan. And no better place than to wear a Sea of Red merch than is going to be at Williams Stadium or in Boone or anywhere else across the country where the Liberty Flames are playing. And before that season kicks off, before those games begin, it's camp time. It is camp. It is not the summer camp that we would go to. It is not church camp. It is football camp. And I think the vibe is definitely different than it was a year ago.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And it's kind of interesting too, because, you go back a year ago, we talked, what were the main storylines? It was 50% roster turnover, new coaching staff, who's going to be the quarterback, and a lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks. A lot of us were talking about, can Liberty cover the 8.5 win total, which you looked at the schedule and you thought, yeah, they could win every game. But I don't think many of us, if any of us, were predicting the team to go undefeated with a new coaching staff, so much roster turnover, and a new quarterback. But obviously, they far exceeded our expectations. We're 13-0 in the regular season, won Conference USA championship, and went out to the Fiesta Bowl, as we all know, and had one for the record books. This year it is a little bit different. There's a lot more questions that have been answered already. You know who the quarterback is. It's 7, right? Caden Salter, he's the guy. You know who the top running backs are. You might even remember we thought Von Blue was going to be the main guy, and he was early in the year, but then it was Quentin Cooley kind of took over, especially when Blue got injured. Well, at practice, it's Quentin Cooley and Von Blue, 1A and 1B, just like it was last year, and Liberty led the nation in rushing last year, despite Von Blue being injured, and he was expected to be a big part of that. So I think we'll see that again this year. And then also, I haven't even we could talk about it for a while, and we will for several minutes tonight. But Coach Chadwell, it's his second time in second time going through this with the Flames. So first time he was talking, joking about how he was just trying to learn everybody's names last year, and now he knows everybody and is familiar with them, knows what they can do, knows how they'll perform. He knows what it's like to go through a Liberty home game, knows what it's like to go through a road trip with the Flames and go through a Conference USA schedule. You know, there's familiarity with that, so he's more comfortable. But one of the big things he's talked about, and I've written an article about it, is how he's pushing the team to attack something, not to, just to rest on the laurels and be like, oh, we know what we're doing. We're comfortable. We know everybody around here. No, he wants them to attack and to pursue each and every day. And ultimately that'll end up in attacking the games on Saturday and midweek games in October and hopefully attacking and competing for another conference championship.
And we're going to get every team's best game. Like that is without a doubt. You know, I'm sure there was pieces of that last year, but I think moving forward, it's going to be something to look at as well, where every team is going to be getting up for this game as an opportunity to take down the giant. Everyone wants to be David. I guess the way the story ends, no one wants to be Goliath. But at the end of the day, that C in Old Testament might have been a C plus. I got to go look, but C, I at least know how that ends. So, John, you mentioned last year being different, where we were at there with the questions we were asking. Some of the questions are still the same. And one of that being wide receiver. A lot of people last year, if you went back and looked at tweets, looked at conversations we had, it was a lot of who's going to step up to be the guy at wide receiver. We got that answer. Ended up being CJ Daniels off at LSU. You know, he obviously balled out. You don't go to LSU without having a season like that. What can you tell us right now? What does that look like? Is there still that, you know, we're looking for someone to come up? What are some names? Because there are some new names. You know, we have Sibley coming back. But what are some names you think we might be looking at from the wide receiver end?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Richie. It's a question mark right now. I think there's a lot of pieces there. I think they'll end up being really good pieces there, but it's an unknown right now, and we may not know. We probably won't know until we get week 3, week 4 or so into the season before we know who it's going to be. But the first thing that kind of comes to mind is Treon Sibley. He's a veteran now, has been in this offense, been in this program for his entire career now. And, I actually was kind of surprised. I kind of lost this a little bit. He was the second leading receiver on the team last year behind obviously CJ Daniels. So Treon had a good year last year, and I expect him to have another good year this year. I don't know if he'll lead the team in receiving, but he'll be among the leaders, no doubt. Elijah Cannon, he's another guy to keep an eye out for. A Purdue transfer. He began his career at Auburn. Injuries have kind of hurt him throughout his career, but he's healthy, knock on wood, right now. Big, tall guy. I mean, if you look at him, he looks like he could line up as a tight end or maybe even a offensive tackle. He's 6'5", long body, thick. So I think he's going to be a good. Coach Tad was talking about how he's a guy that can be a good possession receiver and go and get your catches down in the red zone and things like that. Couple other names we're hearing is Juju Gray, NC State receiver, transfer, and then also Darius Copeland, a guy who I actually wrote about in an article earlier today, who's kind of been a little bit of an under-the-radar name that seems to be emerging, and he might be able to carve out a role for himself. So those are a couple names to keep an eye out on. I think, Tyson Mobley, I shouldn't forget him, Coastal Carolina transfer. He had a big touchdown catch on the first play of the spring game back in the spring. So I think he's another name. Those are probably the first few that come to mind. Obviously, you got the tight ends too, who I think will be a big part of this passing attack as well.
And Henderson's fully healthy. I feel last year he was hurt, right?
Austin Henderson, he's good to go. Now, there is a story that happened earlier this week, and I don't know if I should talk about it, but hey, we'll go ahead and talk about it. One of the co-founders, Liberty University, Dr. Elmer Towns, was out at practice, as he happens to be on occasion. He likes to check in on the Flames, comes down the mountain, and he's a neighbor of Coach Chadwell up on the mountain. So he came down and was checking it out, and Henderson was going out for a pass and caught it, and unfortunately had a little bit of a collision with Dr. Towns. Unfortunately, it sounded like Dr. Towns is fine. I don't know if he got injured, maybe a little scrapes and bruises. But Austin, you got to be a little bit more careful down there on the sidelines. You never know what famous person is going to be dotting the sidelines.
Yeah. Let's be real. It's going to take a lot more than a tight end to take out Dr. Towns. That's for sure. A couple comments real quick in the chat, John, specifically about the wide receiver. Dante Lee, deep threat. What have you seen at camp? Anything like that?
Yeah, Dante Lee, he's a highly sought after transfer out of Shaw Division two school, and he committed to Liberty back in January. And I think, in a perfect world, he's probably a year away from having a serious contribution on the field. Could be wrong, but I think that's he's probably a year away. He might be in the mix, but I think Elijah Canyon, Tyson Mobley, those are a couple names on the outside we'll probably hear of a little bit more than a Dante Lee.
And it is, obviously the coaching staff knew that this was going to be a position of need this year. So when you get people out there throwing as much out there to see what's going to stick. Brad brings up Reese Smith, transfer from West Virginia. He balls out in NCAA 25. I just want that on the record. Injured last year. What are we looking like right now for this year?
Yeah, West Virginia transfer. Unfortunately, seems like he's had a setback. He's not really practicing much right now. I don't expect him. He might not play this year. I don't know. It's still up in the air. We'll have to see what happens. But he's certainly a slow go right now. Coach Chadwell said, I think we're going to spoon feed him a little bit. So I don't expect Reese to be out there week one. Hopefully later in the season he can come back, but that's unfortunate. He was a guy that I thought might lead the team in receiving as far as receptions go a year ago.
And honestly, at the end of the day, the way Coach Chadwell runs offenses, everyone eats. Someone is going to step up. There's going to be plenty of plays to go around. Chad's got a comment. If you are listening, you can't see it, but he said, John, before every season since 2004, quotations, TEs, tight ends, should be a big part of the Liberty passing game. Care to comment, John? Some heavy words.
I mean, I do. I feel like I do say that a lot, but it was true last year that they were a bigger target. And the thing too is with the tight ends is, and I'll throw up our good guy Turtles comment here about Jenkins. We mentioned Austin Henderson. Henderson's one guy who's in the mix there at tight end, and was one of the top two last year, as well as Bentley Hanshaw. Those two are still 1A, 1B, if you want to call them that. And Jacob Jenkins, a transfer from Coastal Carolina, had to sit out last year due to that now archaic NCAA transfer rule where he was making his second transfer, and then they made him eligible for the Fiesta Bowl, and he caught a few balls, if you recall. So between those three, I think Liberty's pretty good as far as depth goes at tight end. I think they will see some targets, especially in the red zone. You also got Burklow. Bo Burklow is another guy to keep an eye on there as well too. But a lot of depth and options at tight end.
Sorry, I've got chips on my back.
No, you're good. I'll keep talking. Question here about Markel Fortenberry as we're talking about receivers. Markel's a guy who was highly recruited out of Tennessee, long kid, lanky. He's put on some weight. He just hasn't quite been able to put it all together right now. I mean, he's got the tools. He just hasn't put it all together yet. He's still a young kid. He could put it together before his career's over, before the season's over. But as of today, I wouldn't expect that Markel Fortenberry is part of your week in, week out rotation early in the season.
I love that we have another coastal wide receiver. I think every year we should just take a coastal wide receiver. We saw it happen last year with Bedgood, and it was awesome. And the NCAA is a joke, and the fact that we don't have him this year is also a joke. Dean, not nice. Salter will not fumble the ball every other game, because this isn't 2022. And the past is in the past. I think Elsa said that. And no, not nice. Not nice, Dean. Rude, some might say.
Yeah, so
I'm looking up the stats, but I can't find fumbles anywhere.
well, that's not a college statistic,
Mhm.
unfortunately, is lost fumbles. Because I tried looking that up too, because somebody had brought that up to us before, and Richie, you and I were talking about it offline, and back a month or so ago, and you can't find the stats. So I do not recall him having a problem with fumbles last year. He may have had a couple, but I don't recall that being a problem. 2 years ago, it was a bit of an issue. Malik, he had a little bit of an issue with the fumbles as well too. I don't know if some of that's kind of clouding our judgment. I do remember. I think it was the Bowling Green game. He had a fumble when we were there in field goal range and turned it over. I think it was late in the first half, but I don't recall that being much of an issue for Caden. He's also got another year under his belt too. So hopefully, you never know, but I don't expect that to be a problem for him this season.
And Turtle just said it. Don't recall having a fumble problem from last year. If Turtle said it, he's got the stats to back it up. Yeah, everyone fumbles. Relax. I trust Caden wholeheartedly. A lot about the offense, a lot about wide receiver. Obviously, we said running back. We got the horses. Highly touted freshman running back coming in, Caden Williams, correct?
Yeah, Caden Williams. He's really, really highly rated. Had a Georgia Tech offer from Georgia. We were able to steal him away down there, and he's a kid. Again, we'll talk to. It's still early in camp. We haven't talked to any assistant coaches as of right now. We get to talk to a couple tomorrow. One of those is the running backs coach. So we'll ask him about him. But I would expect him more than likely to redshirt as long as everybody stays healthy in that room. But I also was kind of thinking that there was a chance Vaughn Blue would redshirt last year, and he did end up redshirting, but that was due to injury, not out of choice. But there's just so much depth in front of Caden Williams. I'm speaking of at running back. Obviously, you got Cooley, you got Vaughn Blue. You got James Jointer, who I hear has had a strong start to camp as well. Former Arkansas transfer. He was kind of the backup to Cooley last year as far as at that A back. And then Billy Lucas is another one. He's kind of been hampered by injury a little bit of a slow go during camp so far. Then also Victor Venn. So you got a lot of names there. And again, Caden Williams, he's more of the between the tackles type power back, like a Cooley or a Lucas or a James Jointer. So we'll see. I think Jointer is probably doing his best to hold off Williams and to keep him redshirted. But there's a lot of names and a lot of talent in that running back room, and injuries can affect that, as we saw last year.
Yeah, and people got to remember, Vaughn Blue was a redshirt season last year, so he is a redshirt freshman. So a lot of talent waiting in the wings, going to be stacked for sure the next few years at running back. So offensively, we have a pretty good idea what we're going to get. We're going to score points, feeling good about that. Defensive side of the ball. Lost a couple players, also bringing back some of the stars, some of the frequent Joker mask wears from last season. Linebackers, definitely a question mark. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing right now, John, during this camp phase?
Yeah, Jackson brings up Aiden Vaughn here. He's excited about him. And also mentioned Cannon, which Cannon's coming on at receiver. But yeah, Aiden Vaughn, a transfer. We heard a little bit about him. I think he's got a chance to be in the mix at linebacker. Sounds like we got a lot of depth at linebacker. Got 6 guys in there that are fighting for playing time. You obviously got Joe Carter and Jerome Jolly returning. Those are the favorites, I would say, entering camp to kind of be the starters going into the season. And you got Taylor Jackson from East Carolina, who's pushing for a starting time as well, and then also Jamar Brown from Coastal Carolina, and then Aiden Vaughn. He'll obviously be in that mix as well too. So I think we got a lot more depth than we've had in a long time at linebacker. I'm really excited about the defensive line, though. I mean, you return all 4 starters. Last year, we were very young and immature there. Kendi Charles was really our only known commodity up front going into the season. If you remember back 2 years ago, 2022, the defensive line was a strength of the team. Didn't they lead the nation in TFLs? I know Jarrell Johnson led the nation individually in TFLs. I think as a unit we did as well too, and that was because of that defensive line. We had a lot of turnover there up front going into last season, but this year you basically bring everybody back with the exception of Kendi, who transferred to Duke. Which it's a lot of fun playing this NCAA game because I played Duke against Duke with Liberty, and I got sacked by Mr. Kendi Charles, and I was reminded he was with the Blue Devils now. But anyways, it's funny to see how that goes. But no, I think the defensive line will be much improved this season. CJ Bazile was preseason Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year, which came as a little bit of a surprise. He led the team in TFLs last year. I think you'll see his number of TFLs and sacks and QB hurries go up significantly this year. I think TJ Bush, who played as a true freshman at defensive end last year, will continue to improve and take a big leap forward. And then the interior of the defensive line, I think, will be very good as well too. I mentioned we lose Kendi, but you remember Kendi was injured a lot last year and really didn't play a ton. It was some of those others, Jay Hardy, Chris Body, that kind of stepped in there and got a lot of those reps. So you got them back as well too. So I think the front 7 will be a lot better. We'll have more depth than we had last year, and I expect the defensive line to not. I don't know if I'd call it a weakness last year, but it certainly wasn't a strength, and I think it'll be trending towards a strength this season.
So impressive that I think what gets lost in the shuffle of everything, what Liberty did last year to go undefeated, win the conference championship, go to the Fiesta Bowl, to bring back so many players that are returning is unheard of with the way that college football is right now. Now, before we kick it to our first commercial break, you have to at least give me a minute on the offensive line before Brendan Schlittler texts you and I saying we gave no love to the offensive line. So fill us in. What's going on? Couple pieces gone, but I feel last year there was a lot of like, hey, we're going to be okay next year. Some freshmen, some transfers. The size is going to be there. It's a big piece, especially with the offense and the way that it's run. What's that going to look like? And there is Brendan in the comments.
Yeah, it's offensive line. It all starts up front for this team, and that's what it was last year. If it wasn't for that offensive line, the team obviously wouldn't have been 13-1. It was one of the best offensive lines Liberty's ever had, probably the best offensive line Liberty's ever had. So it was really good. They were really good. I do lose 3 starters, and so we'll see. You got 2 obviously returning. So you got Jordan White at center. He's back and kind of a team leader, obviously a position leader of that unit up front. Xavier Gray at right tackle as well too. Big X. He looks good. I mean, he's big. He's lost some weight, but looks as strong as ever. So I'm expecting a big year out of him. Harrison Hayes has kind of solidified his spot there at right guard. So those 3 on the right side of the line are kind of safe there. And again, we'll have to get back out to camp and make sure that we don't have any injuries affecting that. But those 3 are there. And then left side is a little bit more of a work in progress. JP Flores, heard a lot about him this summer and early in camp. I think he's laid stake to the left guard spot. We'll see if he holds that as we get into it. But I heard a lot of good things about him, a guy that could have all conference type of season. And then Jack Tucker at left tackle. Those are kind of your first 5 to at least entering camp and early in camp. Jordan Hall is a Monmouth transfer, another big kid, looks the part at least. I think he had a little bit of an ankle issue that slowed him a little bit at the beginning of camp, but he should be fine. And he's pushing at left tackle to get involved there. So with Jack Tucker, so a lot of pieces there. I think the depth is what we're trying to figure out. Aaron Fenimore is another name that's part of the second string. He's second string center, but he could slide into the front group and maybe shift Jordan White out to a guard spot, to give someone a blow, or if there's an injury somewhere, he could be one of the first ones called upon off the bench.
I'm fired up. Rattled off some names that I've never heard of before. I'm very confident that anyone who's watching this, unless you are directly involved with the team, probably learned something in the last 25 minutes of us talking about camp. We're going to kick it to one of our sponsors. And you can see on your screen if you're watching on YouTube Live or later on, we got Jason Porter Real Estate. We have Larry's Tire and Auto. But there's another sponsor you may remember from last year, and it's, to be honest, my personal favorite. And we found out, John and I, 2 days ago?
Yesterday, right?
Yesterday, that we would be
hot off the press.
I said I had a big announcement, and people thought like I was going to announce schedules. I don't know nearly as much as what everyone thinks I do. Like, I barely know more than the common person. So if I ever say I have an announcement to make, it's nothing real. Like, never. It's never real.
This is real, though, Richie. This is real.
Like, if you look at the hierarchy of things of news like I could break, this is like the peak of it. I'm not ever going to announce a schedule. I'm never going to announce that someone committed. It's just not me. I wouldn't give myself the information either. But what I can announce, Leesburg will be sponsoring the podcast again. For those who don't know, Leesburg is God's country. Leesburg is located in Florida, and we're about to watch a phenomenal video about the greatness of Leesburg, Florida.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions, crystal clear natural springs, and one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg, the way Florida is meant to be.
John, if you won the lottery, like the big lottery, other than buying the naming rights to a stadium, which is something I would do, where would you buy houses?
I mean, it has to be in Leesburg.
That's the number one spot.
I mean, you can get to Disney World. And Richie, I actually went on vacation this summer, and I tweeted you some photos and a video of Leesburg. I drove through Leesburg, and gorgeous. It's God's country.
It's love. I say I would buy a shore house in Jersey. I'd buy a house in Lynchburg. I'd buy a house in Vegas. I'm a Raiders fan. And I'd buy a house in Leesburg. I think I can hear my wife in the other room going, "No, you're not. I'm buying a house in Leesburg."
And what's Williams Stadium going to be called if you hit the lottery?
I don't know. I feel like I would pay enough to change the name of it every week. Just text AD and like, "Hey, this week can we call it this?" You'd probably say no a couple times, but Richie Longshot's Memorial Stadium would be a hoot. Yeah, Turtle. Lots of gators, lots of amphibians, lots of everything you could need to be a happy person is in Leesburg, Florida. I'm confident in that. The only other place I would rather be than Leesburg, Florida is Saturday, August 31st at around 3 p.m. at Williams Stadium. What are you going to be doing then, John?
I will be at the tailgate, the Flames Rising Collective tailgate right outside of Gate 1. We were there last year. I think this is a third straight year we've been there, but it's always a good time. We'll have you'll be there, I'll be there. Chad will be there. Mr. Dennis Fields will be there. We'll have plenty of people there. Many of you listening and watching will also be there. We've met many of you there before. If we've not met you before, come on out to the tailgate. You can see us there. You'll see us with either a Sea of Red gear on, Flames Rising gear, Flames Rising flags and things. Will be out there right outside of Gate 1. You can't miss us, Tailgate Town. We always have some good food, and athletes typically will always stop by and hang out and play cornhole with us. And
dance team.
Oh yeah, the dance team will put on a performance right before going into the stadium before the game. So come on out and check us out. It's a lot of fun. And Richie, you'll be there week 1, I believe.
I'll be there week 1. Thinking about UTEP. Thinking about a lot of things. Thinking about UTEP. I probably can't make a weekday game, but probably one more November game, and then tentatively, if there's a game in December, I'll be at a game in December. I don't want to say it.
And then you've also got some special tailgating responsibilities this year, don't you?
Yeah, Chad gave me playlist power, which is a little dangerous, but I'll be good. I did the playlist for the Long Shot family reunion last year, and no complaints. It was a wide variety of people, and I landed the plane, did what I had to do. I've said I will commit to 10% Christian music. As I will stand here today, 10.
Now part of that 10%, does that include a humble tip or
multiple times will the LU anthem be played?
Okay.
And maybe I'll grab maybe some around.
Maybe some Toby Mac as well too.
Let's not get nuts here, Manson. City Hawkins dance, Reliant K, automatic. All some right. Might call it the GOAT, but I'll play good songs. Don't worry. If you are around, stop by, learn a little bit more about the Flames Rising Collective. For all those who are watching or are monthly members, be on the lookout. I'm going to be sending an email out tonight. We got some exciting things coming up. We're going to do a little. We're going to hopefully be able to do a little event Friday night before the game with some athletes and some guests to come out and just as a thank you for your support over the year. We're trying to schedule a virtual meet and greet with Coach McKay, and then we're going to do another virtual insider chat with John. It gives us a little bit more of the insider information. So throw it back earlier, John. You said that this year was different. That we had a lot of questions answered. I mentioned that there were a couple things. The questions were the same. The first one being the wide receivers. The second being the hot button issue that has been all over Twitter, and that is Liberty's schedule. Will Liberty's schedule hinder them from making the college football playoffs? Now, I had always said, until that day comes when the schedule does prevent them from getting, at the time, the New Year's Six Bowl, until that time comes, the schedule prevents them from going to the playoffs. If it ain't broke, they'll fix it. It's working. Now, I'm not going to sit here, and I think everyone watching this, everyone associated with Liberty will say this is not the perfect schedule. We would all love to play some of those bigger market teams. I think we kind of got spoiled for a little bit, but that came with being an independent where there was a lot more flexibility. And we got spoiled. Baylor, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Virginia Tech, Syracuse. Like, it's a lot of good P4 games. And you released a little bit of news this week. Return to Bowling Green next season.
Yeah, we'll be playing at Bowling Green next year, which kind of concludes our 2025 non-conference schedule. We got them and got an FCS in Maine, and then also two.
Not a bad FCS either.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm judging based off of 15 years ago, but I don't think Maine's awful.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I don't care about an FCS. Like, I'm fine having one on the schedule, but who it is, I don't really care. I know there was some, people would rather it be a VMI or someone local, and I understand that, and a Norfolk State, but for whatever reason, Liberty couldn't get someone like that on the schedule. That's mainly no pun intended. That's mainly been what the Flames have been able to do, is to get a an FCS, a regional FCS, a Campbell. There is a VMI coming up in a few years, Norfolk State in the past. But anyways, I'm fine getting an FCS game, and I don't really care who it is, as long as it's an easy win. You don't want to be like Colorado and have North Dakota State, right? You want it's for a win, and it counts towards bowl eligibility, which I know I've heard or read some comments about. Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to win 6 games anyways. Having an FCS game on the schedule does not hurt your schedule because your strength of schedule is made up of other FBS opponents. So having one FCS pro game on your schedule doesn't negatively or positively does not affect your strength of schedule rankings. So it's fine. I'm fine with it. Then we also got JMU and ODU, which I think are great games to have. I could keep rambling. I don't know. What do you want to take this schedule talk?
No, and I get it. Like I said, this isn't perfect, and you kind of alluded to it, John. This isn't for lack of trying. I think multiple things, and I think I tweeted this. And multiple things are true. Multiple things can be true. That a lot of us wish the schedule can be better, and it's not for lack of attempting. Like I saw in the comments, Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame would be rushing to play us.
No, Ian said recently that, and repeatedly, that he calls Notre Dame frequently asking for a game. Obviously, Jerry Falwell Sr., that was one of his BHAGs, was to one day the Liberty football team would play and beat Notre Dame. So obviously to beat them, you got to play them, and we haven't been able to play them yet. So Ian has said that he calls them repeatedly, and for whatever reason, we haven't been able to schedule that yet. It is what it is. But, I think, first of all, I think, Ian has said and continues to say that his model is to have one FCS, 2 regional group of 5s, and a Power 4 now, used to be Power 5 conference opponent each season. I think that's a perfect model for us in Conference USA. We've done a good job of we've been able to get the FCS games. We've done a good job of getting the regional group of 5 games. We've got an App State series, an East Carolina series. Coastal's going to be on the schedule. JMU, ODU. I mean, those are great games, great regional games. I'm excited about this App State and East Carolina game. And those are both the front ends of a home and home series. So we're going to play them again. We try to get a series scheduled with Marshall. They had a new athletic director, and that series got canceled. So we've been able to do a good job there. We just haven't been able to get that Power 4 opponent to play us, and there's lots of discussion around that. But I'm with you, Richie. It did not hinder us in 2023. We were able to get to a New Year's Six, which would have been the playoffs this year, and like you said, until our schedule keeps us out of achieving the goals and things that kind of, we posted it on social media tonight just to get some discussion, and obviously it's a lot of discussion going on out there. But if Liberty goes undefeated this year, which is a huge if, the App State game is going to be difficult. East Carolina is not a gimme. All these teams in Conference USA are going to be coming at us, so it wouldn't be a shock to slip up and lose one of those games. But if we were to go undefeated this season and we did not get into the CFP, that's when I think it's time for us to really put, quote unquote, the heat on to say, what are we doing with our schedule? Yeah. It's not good enough. But to this point, it's proven the opposite. Yeah. We've been able to get what we want and achieve what we want to do. And again, I think the Power Conference games are really more for the fans, for fan interest, for fan appeal. I want to play a Virginia Tech, a Virginia, a Duke, a North Carolina, a Wake Forest, as bad as any of you. Those teams, except for Virginia Tech, all canceled on us. Mm-hmm. And most of them paid, maybe all of them, but most of them paid their buyout penalties to get out of the games. This is what they said. We do not want to play you. We don't want to play this game. We want it off the schedule. South Carolina did it to us. UCF. We had all these teams scheduled on for us. They don't want to play us anymore. And a lot of that is, I had a talk with Todd Batulski. He's a high-ranking senior athletic administrator at Liberty, basically Ian's right-hand man. He worked with Ian at Baylor. This was several years ago. We were talking about scheduling, and he said it's kind of like the stock market. You got to buy low and sell high. He said, so when Liberty first was making the transition to the FBS, it was easy to get games. Everybody wanted to play you because they looked at it as an easy FBS win. Well, then once you start winning, a couple years ago when Liberty started knocking off some of these power conference opponents, they quickly said, we don't want to play you anymore. So Liberty went into a stall. They stopped scheduling games because they couldn't schedule anymore because Liberty was getting wins, notching wins under their belt against a Syracuse and a Virginia Tech and an Arkansas and a BYU. So they stopped scheduling. But it wasn't until Liberty made the announcement they were going into Conference USA that everybody knew that they had to get rid of 8 games a season for about 6 years. So it was a fire sale. Like, everybody wanted to get off the schedule, and they did that quickly. So, it's been unfortunate. Liberty hasn't been able to get a power conference opponent on there. Ian has said repeatedly ever since making the move to Conference USA, that'll be until 2027 that Liberty, that model of having one P4 a year would work. And so that's what it's going to be. We're not going to have a power conference opponent in 2025 or 2026 on the regular season schedule. So we'll have to get into the playoffs to play one, but that's just how it is. So it's unfortunate from a fan's perspective, but it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah. I'm going to rattle off quick fire Richie Longshot's comments on the side. Would we go play an ACC team out west? The ACC teams out west stink. The juice is not worth the squeeze for one game to go to Cal, because if you lose, then you're the losers for going out to Cal. And if you win, it doesn't boost your schedule that much. Middle Tennessee State played Alabama last year, and their schedule was not that much better than ours. Neutral site game versus a G5 team. I know nothing. My guess, Boise State or Memphis. But again,
I would guess that as well. I think Boise State is one. They have an opening. I think it would make perfect sense if we weren't able to work out home and home. I would love to see Boise State as a neutral site game.
Yeah. Dean, no Power 4 team is going to do a home and home with us. The ACC has said stop playing G5 teams on the road. It's just a bad look if they lose. So I can't imagine a world where it's going to have to be a 1-for-2 or some sort of situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not unique to Liberty. I mean, there's other teams. I know Boise State has scheduled a game against Notre Dame recently, and App State has a couple of power conference teams on their schedules as well too. But just today, Oregon announced that their series against Hawaii is off. They're not going to play Hawaii anymore. Now, Oregon's not scared about losing a game into Hawaii, but there's just so many fewer games to be had for a G5 team against a power conference opponent. The conference schedules are increasing. They're starting to play at least 9 conference games a year. So that's just how it is.
3 more rapid fires. Every person that covers Conference USA and makes predictions, tell the people that cover Conference USA that if their teams played better, our schedule our strength of schedule will go up.
Well, and that's another great point too, is because 8 of our 12 games each year are already set. There's nothing we can do about those. You got the 4. We make so much noise about the 4, but we need those 8 in conference games to be better. The best ranked strength of schedule last year in Conference USA was Middle Tennessee. They were at 98.
Yeah.
So that was the best they did. And they played Alabama. They played 2 SEC teams, and their strength of schedule was 90. And they got the benefit of playing Liberty. Like, we don't get to play Liberty, who's a bonus to your strength of schedule. Yeah. So we're talking about, instead of being 134, which none of us want to be 134, we're talking about if we have the best strength of schedule possible, we're going to be like 120. So it's not like we're going to have a strong strength of schedule as long as the conference doesn't perform well. We need... Ian said this in our Q&A with him. Jack State, first game of the year, Thursday night. Jack State plays Coastal Carolina. We need Jack State to win that game. That helps Jack State. That helps Conference USA. And by default, that helps our strength of schedule. So if we can have another thing too is one of the main reasons why we got into the New Year's Six game last year was because of New Mexico State's win at Auburn. We can say what we want to, but that was a huge point. If they don't win that game, we might not have made it to the Fiesta Bowl. So if we can have a Jack State and a Western Kentucky and a New Mexico State all be 8+ win teams this season, that helps our strength of schedule as well too.
Exactly. But that's scheduling. And again, this is unpopular to say. There are teams out there that won't play us because we're too good, and there are teams that won't play us because we're Liberty. And that's the truth of the matter. Whether you want to hear it or not, I can assure you that that is part of the reason. And it is what it is. And I have the utmost trust in Ian McCaw that he has gotten us to this point, successful in many sports, in many situations, and I'm confident that he will do what's right. And as John said earlier, if this doesn't, we go undefeated and we get kept out, all right, fine. I will be the first person to sit here and go, all right, this has got to be better. And I think everyone would have that same sentiment.
Well, and the other thing too is a year ago, none of us expected Liberty to do what they did last year.
No, and a lot of things went our way.
Yeah.
I agree 100% in the comments. A lot of weird things had to happen, and they did.
Yeah, but none of us expected us to go 13-0 and to be talking about our strength of schedule as being a major detractor or argument point against us or either for us to make a New Year's Six or to make the CFP. So again, we're ahead of schedule. We didn't think we were going to be here, and I assume when Ian was setting the schedules and he was like, "All right, it's going to take us until 2027 to have a power conference opponent and to probably get a strength of schedule to a point where he would be comfortable with it." He probably didn't think we'd be in the running or one of the in Vegas. We are the favorite to win the G5 bid to the CFP this year. Never in a million years would Ian have thought that would have been the case. I wouldn't have thought that to be the case. We just didn't think we were that far along, but credit to the team, credit to Coach Chadwell, credit to Ian for getting us to where we're at.
Yeah. Last thing to sum up, because I got a college football game to play in our A Sea of Red EA NCAA 25 Dynasty. People have mentioned it. Root for the teams that we are playing. Turn on college football, even if Liberty's not playing. Root for Jacksonville State against Coastal. Root for Sam Houston.
East Carolina.
ECU, App State against Clemson.
If App State wins the Sun Belt, if East Carolina wins 8 games, that's huge. And I also touched on this on Twitter last week when we were talking about it so much. Liberty is currently, last year they had the 134th ranked schedule or 133, depending on where you look. So basically the worst in the country. This year, preseason, they're in the same boat. I do not think East Carolina is going to be 2-10 like they were last year. I think
games by one score last year.
I think they're going to be. They've also got a really strong NIL collective, and they hit the portal hard. They're going to be really good. I think that East Carolina is going to be a bowl team. That'll help our strength of schedule. I think Sam Houston's going to flirt with being a bowl team. That's going to help our strength of schedule. And then I'm also hoping that App State, like if App State goes 10-2 with their losses being to Clemson and Liberty, and that's a really good, and they win the Sun Belt, that's a really good notch under our belt as well too. We did not have a marquee win over an App State Sun Belt champion in 2023, and we still got to where we wanted to get. If East Carolina, let's say, wins 8 games and App State wins 9 or 10 games and wins the Sun Belt, our strength of schedule is not going to be 134.
No.
Our strength of schedule might be 120. And, any of those people on social media that are trashing Liberty's strength of schedule, figure out what team they're rooting for and what their strength of schedule is. JMU, they're in the 120s. So I don't want to hear a JMU fan coming out this year talking about how bad Liberty's schedule is. Your schedule is just as bad as ours is.
Exactly.
And the same can be said for a lot of Group of 5 teams.
I think we covered a lot tonight.
Yeah.
camp schedule, Leesburg,
Good talk.
tailgate, the shop. Good talk as always. John, thank you so much. I love getting to talk. I speak for everyone listening. I will take that leap. Say that we learned so much from your insight and all that you know. If you enjoy this, subscribe. Check out the Sea of Red shop. It's on the website. You can get the link all off Twitter. All that good stuff. Thank you for checking this out. We're so excited for this football season. We're going to be weekly starting in like 2 or 3 weeks. And getting back to the swing of things like it was last year. So we're super excited about all that. Thanks again, as always, for checking us out. John, any final words?
No, it was a good discussion. Appreciate everybody's feedback. Comments were going crazy tonight, so that was great. Keep that up all season. We'll get the Twitter thing figured out. Like I said, I figured out 10 seconds before we went live that you now have to be Twitter Premium to live stream. So we'll get that straight by the time the season starts for our next podcast. But thanks, Richie. Thanks, Jason Porter. Thank you, Leesburg. Looking forward to the season. Be here before you know it.
Can't wait. And we'll see you when we see you. And hopefully next time on Twitter as well. What's up?